write-off. This one is new, and for electric car owners, it is the one almost nobody sees coming. Analysis of British claims data found that more than 1 in 5 electric cars involved in a collision are now written off completely, often after impacts that look minor from the outside. 3 mechanisms: theft, repair, write-off. Now, here are the 10 cars they are hitting hardest. Number 10. The Nissan Juke. Nobody expected the Nissan Juke on a list like this. A small crossover, cheap to run, and for years unremarkable to insure. Then the Juke walked into the DVLA theft table. 1,027 Nissan Jukes were reported stolen in a single year, putting it 8th on the national list, ahead of the Vauxhall Corsa and ahead of the Range Rover Sport. The reason is not glamour. It is volume and keyless entry. There are a lot of Jukes. They sit on driveways rather than in garages, and the older ones use keyless systems. A relay device defeats in under a minute. And here is what matters for your renewal. Insurers do not price your individual Juke, they price the pool. Once a model climbs a theft table, every owner pays for it, including the ones who never leave the house. If you own a Nissan Juke, the fix is cheap. A Faraday pouch for the keys, a steering wheel lock on the drive. Both tell an underwriter something, and some brokers price it in. Number 9. The Vauxhall Corsa. 870 Vauxhall Corsas stolen in a year, 9th nationally. And the Corsa carries a second problem no other car here does. It is the first car. What your daughter learns in, what half the 17-year-olds in Britain are insured on. So the Corsa sits at the exact intersection of a high theft rate and the highest risk driver group in the country. A 17-year-old in a higher group car can pay over £3,000 a year. A 45-year-old with 10 years no claims in a low group car might pay under £300, 10 times the money. So when a Corsa is taken off a street in Manchester, the cost lands on every young driver in Britain trying to insure the same car. If you are buying a first car, check the insurance group before anything else. Not the colour, not the mileage. The group. Over 3 years, it matters more than the purchase price.
Number 8. The BMW 3 Series and the Mercedes C-Class. With the BMW and the Mercedes, we move up the price ladder, and the story changes from volume to value. 1,371 BMW 3 Series stolen in a year, 4th nationally. 1,123 Mercedes C-Class, 6th. At brand level, BMW sits second only to Ford, with Mercedes close behind. These cars are not taken for joyriding. They are taken for parts, for export, and for the electronics inside them, using relay attacks. Which is why the age profile is uncomfortable. Most cars stolen in Britain last year were only a couple of years old. Read that again, because it kills the assumption most owners work from. A newer car is not a safer car. Often it is the opposite, because a newer car has keyless entry and an older one does not. If you own a 3 Series or a C-Class, the highest value thing you can do costs £10. Keep the fob in a signal-blocking pouch, away from the front door. Relay theft needs to reach your key through a wall. Take that away and the attack fails. Number 7. The Kia Niro and the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Here is where electric cars enter, from a direction nobody predicted. The Kia Niro became Britain's most stolen electric car, with 199 reported to the DVLA in a single year.
That figure represented around a fifth of every electric vehicle stolen in the country, and it was close to a five-fold increase on the year before. Behind it, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, 96 thefts in the same period, around 1 in 10 of all electric car thefts. The year before, the recorded figure was 1. Now, those Nero and Ioniq figures are older, so treat them as direction rather than gospel. But the direction is the point. Electric cars were sold to British drivers as the sensible, low-risk choice. Thieves worked out that a battery pack and a set of motors are worth a great deal in parts. If you own an electric Kia or Hyundai, the advice is the same. Pouch the key, lock the wheel, and check your policy actually covers the charging cable, because plenty do not. Number 6. The Ford Fiesta, the Ford Focus, and the Volkswagen Golf. The three most stolen cars in Britain together, because the story is identical. 3,511 Ford Fiestas stolen in a single year, according to DVLA data. That is more than double the combined total of the second and third most stolen models. The Volkswagen Golf, 1,731. The Ford Focus, 1,700. And within the Focus figure, a detail worth knowing. The fourth-generation Focus, built between 2011 and 2018, accounted for around 56% of every Focus stolen. The later car has better security, and the numbers show it. Ford, as a brand, had more than 7,600 cars stolen in a year, more than any other manufacturer in the country. A Fiesta, a Focus, a Golf. This is the ordinary British car park, and that is why the cost lands so hard. There is no premium badge to absorb it. A Fiesta owner pays a theft premium on a car that cost £8,000. If you own a pre-2018 Fiesta or Focus, price up an aftermarket immobilizer or tracker. On a Fiesta or a Golf, that spend is small next to what a theft claim does to your premium for 5 years. Now, if you own any of the cars I have named so far, do me a favour and type the number 1 in the comments. Just the number 1. I read every single one of them, and I want to see how many of us are driving something on this list. And if you have not subscribed, please do. It is free, it takes a second, and it is the only reason this channel can keep pulling this information together. Because from number 5 onward, with Tesla and Jaguar and Porsche, we move from theft into something else entirely. And this is where the refusals start. Number 5. The Tesla Model 3 and the Model Y. Tesla changed what an insurer has to think about, and not in a good way. Start with that windscreen. Around £1,800 on a Model 3 against roughly £350 on a Ford Focus. Now multiply that across every panel. Aluminium structures, integrated castings, sensors buried in the bumpers, and a repair network far smaller than the one servicing a Focus. Market analysis puts cars like the Tesla Model Y commonly above £1,500 a year. Those are market examples, not a quote you will be offered, but it is the number to budget from rather than discover at renewal. Then, the write-off problem. The battery sits in the floor, so a scrape on a high curb or debris on the motorway can damage the casing. Thatcham research analysis suggests the battery accounts for between 40 and 50% of the car's entire value, with replacement quoted from £8,000 to over £20,000. Repair versus total loss stops being close. If you own a Model 3 or a Model Y, check one thing. Confirm in writing that the battery is covered for accidental damage and what valuation basis applies if the car is written off. Those two lines are the difference between a bad week and an expensive year. Number 4. The Jaguar I-Pace and the Porsche Taycan. Two premium electric cars and two of the most expensive in Britain to insure. Market figures flag the Jaguar I-Pace among the most expensive electric cars to cover, with the Porsche Taycan commonly past £1,500 a year. But the raw premium on an I-Pace is not the interesting part. The interesting part is what happens to that Jaguar after a small accident. Look at what happens to these cars after a collision. Analysis of British claims data found that more than 1 in 5 accident-damaged electric cars are written off completely, not after serious collisions. A Taycan or an I-Pace can go after impacts that look minor from the outside. One study found that around 22% of electric cars involved in road accidents sustain significant damage to the battery pack. The mechanism is not Jaguar's fault, or Porsche's. Very few technicians in Britain are qualified to assess or repair a damaged high-voltage battery, so replacement becomes the default. And when replacement costs more than half the car's value, the insurer has no decision left. Britain does not have enough electric vehicle qualified technicians, and the Institute of the Motor Industry has said so for years. Until that changes, every electric car carries a higher chance of being written off than the petrol car next to it. If you own an I-Pace or a Taycan, use a specialist broker rather than a comparison site. The mainstream panel will not compete on these cars. A broker reaches underwriters who will. Number 3. The Toyota CHR. This one should surprise you, because Toyota is the brand British drivers buy to avoid exactly this. The Toyota CHR Dynamic Hybrid became the most stolen car variant in Britain by make, model and trim in the most recent full year of DVLA data. 437 in 12 months, up 28%. The CHR XL rose faster still, up 39%. It knocked the Ford Fiesta Zetec off the top of that table. A Toyota hybrid, the sensible choice, is now the most targeted car variant in the country. Why? Thieves changed strategy. They stopped chasing the most common cars and started chasing the most profitable. A hybrid carries a catalytic converter loaded with precious metals, plus battery modules and high-specification electronics. Every one has a ready market. That should worry every hybrid owner in Britain, not just CHR owners. The Toyota RAV4 entered the national top 10 for the first time recently, with 1,260 stolen. The Lexus RX, 678. Toyota now sits third for total thefts at brand level. If you drive a hybrid, the catalytic converter is the exposed part. A cat marking kit or a physical cat guard costs a fraction of the excess you will pay on a claim, and some insurers will recognize it. Number 2. The Chinese electric cars. BYD, XPeng and Skywell. Here we reach the cars where insurers are not simply charging more on a BYD or an XPeng, they are declining to quote at all. Research reported in 2026 found that premiums for some Chinese-built electric cars were running at close to triple those of established European equivalents, and that some major British insurers were refusing to offer a quote on them entirely. Separate research by CarWow found British insurers more hesitant to cover certain Chinese models than comparable cars from anywhere else. Buyers have fewer options than buyers of electric, hybrid and petrol cars from Europe, America and South Korea, and in some cases pay close to double the premium of an equivalent non-Chinese petrol car. Think about the buyer standing on the forecourt. The entire proposition of these cars is price. You save thousands at the dealership, then the insurance quote arrives and eats the saving, assuming you can get one at all. The reason is not politics, and it is not the quality of the car. On a BYD Seal or an XPeng crossover, it is data. An underwriter prices a Skywell or a BYD on claims history, repair cost data, and parts availability. On a brand selling here for 2 years, that history does not exist. No history means no confidence, and no confidence means a high number or no number at all. If you are looking at a BYD or an XPeng, do one thing before you sign. Get a real quote on the exact model and trim at your postcode with your details. Not an estimate, a quote. The answer may change your mind about the car entirely. Number 1. The Range Rover, the Range Rover Sport, the Evoque, and the Discovery Sport. The Range Rover started this entire conversation in Britain, and it is still the clearest example of an insurance market simply walking away. Go back a few years. More than 5,200 Range Rovers were taken off British driveways in a single year, according to DVLA figures, making it the second most stolen car in the country. The thefts were concentrated in London and built on keyless relay attacks, and the insurance market did to the Range Rover what insurance markets always do. It ran. Autocar reported insurers refusing outright to cover Range Rovers registered to London addresses. One North London owner was quoted £11,000 on a multi-car policy and cancelled his order. A broker reported £20,000 for a single car. Another driver £38,000 a year on a £50,000 Range Rover. And Land Rover's own insurance scheme had closed its doors at the exact moment owners needed it. I want to be careful with those numbers because they are individual reported cases, not what a typical owner pays. But they show what happens when a model becomes uninsurable in a postcode. The market does not negotiate. It leaves. To be fair to Jaguar Land Rover, the company acted. It launched its own insurance offer for owners who could not get cover elsewhere, and put more than £10 million into anti-theft work with the police. The numbers responded. Range Rover Sport thefts fell 47% in a year. Evoque thefts fell 27%, but look where those Land Rover numbers fell from. Even after that, the Evoque still had 1,087 stolen in a year, 7th nationally. The Range Rover Sport, 867. The Discovery Sport, 837. 3 Land Rovers in the top 12. If you own a Range Rover or an Evoque, the tracker matters most, not a Faraday pouch alone. An insurer-approved system professionally fitted on a subscription. On a car this valuable, it is often the difference between a quote and no quote. Number 0. The other side of the story. Because it would be easy to tell this as insurers being greedy about Fords and Range Rovers. And that would not be honest. Insurers are not refusing a Fiesta or an Evoque out of malice. 68% of stolen cars never come back, so a theft claim is almost always a total loss rather than a repair. The battery pack in a Model Y or an I-Pace can be half the value of the car. And Britain does not have enough technicians qualified to repair the high-voltage system in a Tesla or a Taycan, which is an industry failure rather than an insurer decision. The market is also not moving in one direction. The average premium on an electric car in Britain now sits at roughly £707, against £558 for petrol. About 25%. Down from around 30 a few years ago. As the repair network matures, that gap keeps narrowing. Total car thefts fell too, from 61,343 to 54,830. Toyota, Ford and Land Rover now fit motion sensor fobs that switch off when the key is still, and ultra-wideband technology that is far harder to relay. And one more piece of honesty. Every extreme premium I have quoted on the Range Rover and on the rest is an individual case reported in the motoring press. They are real, they happened, and they are not typical. Your premium depends on your postcode, your age, your history, and whether the car on your drive is a Corsa or a Cayenne. Nothing here is a quote or advice on what to buy. What you should do tonight. So what do you actually do about it, whatever is sitting on your driveway? 5 things, and none of them take long. First, get a real quote on that car before you buy, not after. Exact model, exact trim, your own address. It is the most common mistake British buyers make and the most expensive. Second, check the insurance group before anything else. Groups run 1 to 50, set by Thatcham Research and the Association of British Insurers on repair cost, performance, security and parts prices. 2 Corsas that look identical on a forecourt can sit 15 groups apart on trim alone. Third, secure the key. Duke, Golf or Range Rover, a signal-blocking pouch costs a few pounds and defeats a relay attack outright, because the attack must reach your fob through a wall. Pouch the spare too. Most people forget the spare. Fourth, layer it. A steering wheel lock on the drive, a tracker on the Range Rover, a cat guard on the CHR or the RAV4. Tell your insurer about every one, because some will price it in and none will price in what you did not mention. And fifth, if the mainstream panel will not quote you on that Tesla or BYD, go to a broker. Comparison sites only show insurers who are on them. A broker reaches those who are not, and on the cars at the top of this list, that is often the difference between cover and none. 10 cars, from the Nissan Duke to the Range Rover. 3 mechanisms, and one uncomfortable truth running underneath all of it. Your premium is not really about how you drive. It is about what every other Fiesta owner, every other Evoque owner has been through. So tell me in the comments, what car are you driving and what happened to your renewal? Did an insurer refuse you outright? Did you get quoted something absurd? Tell me the model and the number, because your experience is what stops somebody else buying the wrong car. And if this was useful, give it a like. Send it to whoever in your family is about to buy a car. And subscribe to the channel. Go and get a quote on your own registration today, before your renewal letter does it for you.